CJ on the track.
Check. Welcome to another marvelous episode. I am so excited to be back. I feel like I haven't talked to you guys in days. We're supposed to go live yesterday, but I ended up running around the world helping people move, helping people do this, helping people do that. I wasn't even able to go live on Overreaction Monday last night. I am finally glad to be back to be able to talk college football. This weekend was an amazing weekend of college football, and it truly didn't disappoint. And that's why I feel like college football is truly undefeated, because every time you think you understand and you know something, you don't. That's just really the way it works, and that's the way this sport always works, and I love it, to be honest with you. So on today's docket, we got quite a few things we're going to talk about. Now, into the news segment. You guys know we typically cover news on that segment. You know, after these episodes were supposed to be on Monday, but of course it had to be on Tuesday, September 2nd. Shout out to my uncle Foots. Foots just moved into a house. I think I shouted him out on the show before. And then also, he's more like a bigger brother. It's 8-year gap, but he's an uncle, so I still call him uncle. It's 8-year gap. Shout out to him. Birthday was yesterday. Also was moving, bought a new house. I was helping him with that. And then also, shout out to everybody's birthday in September. I know it's Virgo season. Things getting a little bit more organized in the world, but college football isn't. So in this Into the News segment, we're going to kind of talk about the scores that really stood out to me, and we're going to talk a lot about week one. This episode is all about week one. Tomorrow's episode, we'll start our week two preparation. I like to start that on Tuesday, but because we had the delay in the show, it is what it is. But shout out to everybody who's always tuned into the show, always checking the show out. I truly appreciate it. Our show is definitely going up in numbers, especially on Twitter. Like I said, it goes unnoticed. I think you guys trust me as the voice, or not the voice, but one of the voices of college football, and I think that's going to continue to go up. Yeah, Crow Monday was what yesterday was supposed to be. I was supposed to eat a lot of crow, but it is what it is. I do a lot of research, and sometimes you think you got a good read on teams, and you don't really have that read on the team that you thought you had on that team, but that's neither here nor there. We're not going to worry about it. We're not going to cry over spilled milk. But yeah, so our Into the News will be the scores that matter. We got a new segment, introducing a new segment. This is a fun segment, and this is going to be a fun episode. I think the people who watch this episode and have kind of followed along, our journey on, governing college football, this episode 77 already, right? I got a new segment. It's called Hold This L, and this is for any media with bad takes. So, guys, I had some bad takes. So, yeah, I'm on this Hold This L segment for sure. Teams who didn't play well or didn't meet expectations, they're going to hold this L as well. So, I think you guys are going to like that segment a lot. Also, on today's segment, show, we're going to talk about, on a segment, Governor's Travels. I'll talk about where I was this past week. And this one is a fun one because, I got to be in SEC country. SEC got beef with CFB Nation. I don't know why. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. I shouldn't say that because we work credential for the game. But y'all know what I mean when I say that. But yeah, so we were in SEC country. Got to go to the bands, and I'll talk to you guys about that. I think that'll be fun as well. And then our final segment is our weekend recap, like that George Michael Sports Machine, like the ESPN, like how SportsCenter used to be back in the day when they had Rich Eisen, even though he's back now, and Stuart Scott. Those type of highlights. So we're gonna recap, and it's always 5 games, the 5 games that matter most to me. And I'll do a voiceover. We got music in the background. We gonna take it back to sports shows the way they used to be. I don't really like. I shouldn't say I don't like, because there's a lot of internet-based sports shows that are fantastic, so I shouldn't say I don't like. But what's on cable television, a lot of what's on cable television, I don't like. And you see, I think that's the overarching thought, because now they're trying to go and get people from, like Josh Pate is on ESPN now. I think Bussin' with the Boys now have a partnership. Josh Pate isn't one. He has a partnership with ESPN, let me say it correctly. And the same thing with Bussin' with the Boys. So now they're trying to get these internet personalities to be a part of it, because that's what a lot of us prefer, is those type of programming and that type of shows, where it's more about the sports, it's more about the information, and it's more about reporting and editorial pieces than it is about arguing and the duality of, hey, you like this person, I'm not supposed to like that person, I like this person, you're not supposed to like this person. So yeah, so we want to get to that. This is going to be a fun episode, man. You guys get ready, man. Governor College Football, hashtag go CFB. CFB Nation, your only college football destination. Let's get it. Governor of College Football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's
Two great
CJ on
defensive
the
minds.
track.
They have to be better on that side of the Alrighty, let's get into it, man. Let's talk about this Into the News segment. First thing first, I pop it. Y'all already know how I go. Y'all already knew what I was about to say. So let's get into it. Michigan defeats New Mexico 34-17. True freshman quarterback Bryce Underwood wasted no time in his big house debut, throwing for 251 yards and a touchdown. Transfer running back Justice Haynes stole the night with 159 yards rushing and 3 scores. Michigan showed the makings of a dangerous quarterback running back duo. Though the defense bent a little bit more than we expected, I like what I saw out of Michigan. It's one of those things you say, okay, Governor, it's worth, versus a G5 team. I don't think you guys realize how bad this offense was last year. So the fact that they showed flash, they went with the true freshman quarterback in Bryce Underwood, and he showed that he has, the unique ability to make plays, especially those off-script plays that, a lot of us love, when we're looking at a quarterback or evaluating a quarterback at the collegiate level. I like what I saw out of them. They got a big showdown next week. This upcoming week, rather, in Norman versus Oklahoma. I know that'll be a special moment for Sharon Moore. He played at Oklahoma and all of that. College game day is going to be there. One of the biggest games on slate. I'm actually more excited about the Cy-Hawk game. You guys know I'm weird, man. It's just certain games I think that just mean more. And that game means more. And though we get a dueling quarterback battle with Bryce Underwood and John Mateer, I think that game is going to be a fantastic game. Don't get me wrong, but the Cy-Hawk game, it would have been, I think a better pick for me and for, the college football that I like. Cal defeats Oregon State 34-15. We talked about one freshman stud. Let's talk about another freshman stud in Jaron. I don't say his last name because I can't pronounce it. But, dude, you have to credit this kid for what he was able to do. The fact that he was going to go to Oregon, and then he made the wise choice of saying, you know what, I'm not going to get playing time this year, right? But it's also a possibility I don't get playing time next year or the year after. Let me go somewhere that's going to give me an opportunity to compete. And he was able to compete with Devin Brown. And they was able to beat, an Oregon State team who's an upstart team, in my opinion. Malik Murphy left Durham to go there, to go to Corvallis. And this is no disrespect to Corvallis, And even though Duke disappointed me this past week, too, because I've been talking them up a lot in the off season. But I don't know. It's like one of those things where, in my opinion, it's kind of, really tough to kind of calibrate Oregon after this loss. But Cal, Coach Justin Wilcox, I told you guys at ACC Media Days, I got a really good feeling about them. The sit down that Devin Brown and Jalen Wilson, one of our analysts had, they had such a fantastic conversation. And arguably, I think 1A and 1B. 1A will be the Moon and Justin Wilcox, interview, and then 1B will be Jalen's interview with Devin Brown. And those interviews really struck me well. It actually, Justin Wilcox interview went, because I was supposed to sit down with Jaron. And those interviews have ran over, so I didn't even get an opportunity to sit down with them. But they were such good conversations, I wasn't even upset. But you kind of see why Justin Wilcox and staff went with Jaron. And I know it had to be difficult because you tell Devin Brown, hey, you get an opportunity to compete here. And you really do feel sorry for the kid. Everything he's been through, back-to-back, quarterback losses, battle losses at Ohio State. I think he should have did what Kyle McCord did. Kind of when Will Howard got there, Kyle McCord knew he was going elsewhere. Devin Brown is such a competitor, and he will get opportunities to play this year. Not saying that, it's going to be, when, because Jaron is playing bad, but you never know with injuries, and I'm not wishing that on anybody. And you also never know when you get opportunity in mop-up duty. But shout out to Cal, Justin Wilcox, great win. I am hopeful for this program this year. I really am. It's something I said in the offseason. And while a lot of things as it pertains to my takes and my opinions went the opposite direction, I'm accountable as it comes in this industry. So, and I will hold this L, and that's what the Hold This L segment is about. And I am going to roast myself during the Hold This L segment, as well as other people. Tulane defeats Northwestern 23-3. So a lot happens for me because Saturday I was actually supposed to be in Atlanta. Issue happened with my flight. Didn't make it to Atlanta. It is what it is. I was peed off because I really wanted to see GBO, right? And frustrated about that. But, we do have a plethora of other things we have to do with CFB Nation. I think everybody plays a role. Does an outstanding job with YouTube and putting out content on there. Does an outstanding job with Twitter. Our Twitter feed is amazing. So if you're not following at the CFB Nation on Twitter and you're a college football fan, how can you call yourself a college football fan? Because you're missing a real treat because he does put a lot of good info on there. On the website side of things, that's Moon. Moon kills the website, killed the articles. This weekend I was helping them with the articles because we do try to cover all of the teams. And it's a lot of work. And you'll be staying up late. And I had, a super early morning fight Sunday morning to Atlanta to go see, the Beamer Bowl. And then had a red eye. And that, that moment me and Moon met up, hey, what's happening? Boom, let's get to work. let's finish everything we need to finish. So in the midst of, writing articles and doing everything and preparing that stuff, I was watching that Tulane and Northwestern game. It was a game intriguing me. You guys know I'm a Preston Stone fan. Really disappointed in the way he played. Jake Retzlaff for BYU and, former BYU quarterback on the other hand, I think he was impressive, and Tulane, watch out for Tulane. I think the American is really shaping up to be the G5 conference. And when I said that, I got some pushback from, people who are Mountain West fans. And I'm like, no, you guys may be top heavy, but the American is deep, bro. And right now it looks like a 3-team race between Navy, Tulane, and South Florida USF. It's early in the season, though. We're just going off of week 1 reactions. But right now, I think Tulane is in the driver's seat. Navy will be right there in the thick of things as well. CFB Nation, top 25 poll. Post week 1 will be out. And I think we'll just call it week 2 poll. It'll be out a little bit later on today. Wanted to get that out early. It was completely my fault. I dropped the ball. But it's difficult when you got to get these forms in and then we got to, do all of the calculations and everything. I've seen it. I'm not saying a word. You guys will see it, when it comes out. Kentucky defeats Toledo 24-16. I think, and I always say no more victories. You guys know that's one of my catchphrases on this show and on this platform. Even before this show was born, the staple show, which was, CFB Nation. It was just a show before it became a platform. And I would always say no more victories in a sport that survives and advances. That's what the college football regular season is. There's truly no moral victories. There isn't. But as close as you can get to a moral victory, I think is with Toledo. Toledo had opportunities to win this game in SEC country and, to play as well as they did. This team, watch out for this team. I don't think there's blemish on their record. People are going to look back at week 1 and say, if they able to, run the table the rest of the way, hey, they were competitive. So if you're evaluating a 12, let's say 12-1, let's say they run the rest of the table. I haven't looked at their schedule, so bear with me. But let's say they run the rest of their table and win their conference championship. I'm going to look at a 12-1 team, or let's say something like Boise State. I'm going to look at the way that Boise State got hands and feet placed on them against South Florida, and I will take the resume of Toledo. It is what it is. Same thing, 13-0 Liberty. I will look at Toledo and their resume. If they're 12-1, close defeat to Kentucky, I'm not going to hold that against them. If strength of schedule matters, right? So that's just, like 100% where I'm at with it. So I don't know why I'm dropping frames. Give me a second, and I'm going to get this fixed ASAP. I think I got too many windows open. Sorry about that. I didn't even realize because, I looked here and I use a program called OBS and I'm looking at my drop frames. It didn't show I had any, but I think I just got too many windows open. So let's get some of these windows closed and I think we'll be fine. It is what it is. This is live television. Who cares, right? All right. So Georgia Tech defeats Colorado 27-20. So Friday night was another day I was mad. The airline we were with, certain days with the package we were with, they had blackout dates, and we didn't see it and didn't make it out there. But I still watched the game on television. Friday night I was just peed off the entire night. So Georgia Tech, watching them on the big screen defeat Colorado 27-20. And the fact that Georgia Tech started the game with 3 early turnovers and Colorado just didn't take advantage of it. Watching Kalen Salter, I have to be honest with you, was he trying to be like Shador? Is that the feeling that you guys got, like in Pat Shermer's offense? And I'm sure they've been preaching all offseason, hey, you don't always have to take off and run, keep your eyes down the field and make plays. He's not as accurate as Shador is. And you guys should have known that when he came in. There was just so many times, even on one of his touchdown throws, he could have just took off and ran it in. And I was just like, yo, I've watched Kalen Salter, at Liberty, and I've seen a lot of his games, right? And I know how this kid played. This kid is dynamic. And I know a lot of people look at what he did last season. It was a down year. He didn't want to be there. And that's not an excuse. If you're there, it is what it is. Handle business. But, at the end of the day, I don't know. Just something didn't look right. It just didn't seem comfortable. When I say Colorado had a million opportunities to win this game, they did. And that was surprising because my thoughts is Georgia Tech is like an SEC team in the ACC. Their coach mantra, run the ball, the physicality. He's a former offensive lineman, and they're going to win the war of attrition on the line of scrimmage. In the beginning of that game, in my preview for this game, I was like, I don't think they can match the physicality because I'm going off of what they had the last couple of years. They actually were able to match some of the physicality that Georgia Tech brought. And when I look at physicality and I look at all of the conference with the least amount of physicality, probably with the exception of Utah, is the Big 12, right? And that was the confusing thing to me. Hey, you guys won the turnover battle. You guys were physical at the point of attack. You actually got some push on the line. I'm like, whoa, this Colorado team looks different. Looks a little bit different. The makeup is different. But yo, I think Seattle fans used to say it back in the day, let Russ cook. Pat Shermer, let Kaden Salter cook. Don't have him back there trying to be like Shador or trying to extend the play, bro. If he get a lane, take off. If they not on spot, take off. You guys would have won the game just by doing that alone. But at the end of the day, in a tough environment, things didn't go their way. That shows the heart of a champion, and that shows what Georgia Tech has been building, right? So Georgia Tech, great win. We celebrate winners here, as every other podcast does. But the disappointment I had in Colorado, just because I feel like they were trying to change Kaden Salter's game, and that's just observations off of one game. But I will say this: they were more physical than I had anticipated. I thought that the offensive line of Georgia Tech and the defensive line of Georgia Tech were maul, and that's not what happened. There was times that Colorado did win the war of attrition on the line of scrimmage. So that's something I think everybody need to keep in their back pocket. Colorado's lost. Colorado is hated. We all know that, and we all know why. Well, maybe some of us are in denial of why, but it is what it is. I won't even step into that Pandora's box. It's all good. But to me, in a loss, no more victories. Like I said about Toledo, like I said about Colorado, hey, you had opportunities to win the game. You should have won the game. But it's no more victories, and we're gonna, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna stand 10 toes on that. You guys should have won that game, and I don't want to hear it. Alrighty, coming up with our last, one of the headlines, the things that I was looking at. Oklahoma defeats Illinois State, 35-3. I know you guys look at this as an FCS game. Maybe the score should have been a little bit lopsided like it used to be in the Bob Stoops and Lane, I'm sorry, not Lane Kiffin, but the Bob Stoops and Lincoln Riley era where, they're hanging 70 on these type of teams. But to me, I think that they came in there, business mindset, let's handle business. They put on a good showing. We got a bigger game week 2. So that's the thought that I have on that game. But y'all set a program record for the most passing yards in the debut. Lighten up Norman, 392 yards, 3 touchdowns. Look sharp. Offense look good. Ben Arbuckle look good. Hey, once we get a large enough league, let's take our players out. Let's get some players that we may need later in the season to get some, mop-up duty. And it was business as usual for them. So that's good. I liked how the offense looked. I'm waiting to see how it looks, at home against Michigan. And I think I'm dropping frames again. Let me make sure. I think I'm good. I don't know what's going on. It is what it is. But yeah, let's move on to our next segment. That's our Into the News. Just going over some scores and some stories that I looked at. But let's move on to our next segment. I think you guys are going to like this one. It's called Hold This L. Alrighty, so we got a debut segment called Hold This L, and I shouldn't have Florida State up here, but I'm a troll, so I got Florida State up here anyway. So yeah, we're gonna talk to some media, we're gonna talk to some teams, and yeah, so some of y'all came to play, some of y'all came to embarrass yourselves. Don't worry, I got receipts. Now it's time to hand out this paperwork on this episode or this segment of Hold This L. Kalen DeBoer, come on down. You up first on this Hold This L segment. So Alabama loses its first season opener in 24 years, falling flat to Florida State. Now, Kalen, how did you allow Thomas Castellanos to get away with saying they are not the same without Nick Saban? Me, personally, I would have said, I know he ain't talking about me, right? I would have took that perspective. But Kalen DeBoer, you got to hold this L. You allowed this man to be Muhammad Ali. You allowed this man to be Babe Ruth. He called this shot. And then he backed it up. How disrespectful. We got plays where your team is just taking the plays off, showing no heart, showing no effort, showing no hustle. Kalen DeBoer, you got to hold this L for a myriad of reasons. You're going to Tallahassee, right? We all, including myself, got big aspirations for you go. We felt like you did a great job in the spring. We felt like you did a great job with your winter workouts. We felt like you did a great job with your summer workouts. We like fall camp. Yes. And we all ready to promote, Ty Simpson, like he's ready for this moment. In the first drive, you guys looked okay. capped off, got points, put points on the board, but Kalen DeBoer, hold this L for a myriad of reasons. One, your team showed no heart, no effort, and you guys lost the war of attrition on the line of scrimmage. Florida State is an ACC school, granted, with a rich history. They got records I don't think ever be broken. I think they started off AP top 5, 13 straight seasons. That'll never be broken, but this is the SEC, playboy. And I was at that Virginia Tech and South Carolina game. South Carolina looked way bigger than Virginia Tech. Not even close. So you guys didn't win a war of attrition on the line of scrimmage for an Alabama coach team. Hold this L, Kalen DeBoer. Your players showed no effort. Hold this L, Kalen DeBoer. And then you let Tom and Castellanos call this shot. Hold this L. Sometimes it's not that you lose, it's the way you lose. You lost to a team that was 2-10 last year, Kalen DeBoer. Hold this L. What differences are you going to make moving forward? Because there's one thing to lose and lose with diligence. You force your hardest, your uniform is bloodied, and you gave your all. You're gasping for air at the end of the game. It's another thing to march into someone else's stadium and let them have a party, bro, and you lose the war of attrition on the line of scrimmage. Kalen DeBoer, you are up first on this segment of Hold This L. So Kalen DeBoer, congratulations, brother. Hold this L. This L's for you. Alrighty, up next, Army football. Army football. You were fresh off an American Conference Championship, and you go out there and lose to Tarleton State. My brother, that's not Army. As the great words of Nino Brown, that's Circuit City University. Circuit City University. You guys lost to Tarleton State. Army, hold this L. And I forgot, Kalen DeBoer, you got a punishment for holding this L. Everybody who's holding the L this week, they got a punishment. So let me go back a little bit. Let's rewind. Your punishment. Recite Yeah, Alabama on loop until the Tide make the college football playoff. So you might be singing that for a while. So you either be singing until you make the playoff or until you get fired. Your seat is now warming up a little bit. I think Skip Bayless said the hottest seat in America. No, shut up, bro. Go watch NFL. NFL's coming back this week. Shut up. So Nick Saban, for that statement, hottest seat in America, you can hold this L. Has it warmed up a lot? Absolutely. Hottest seat in America? Absolutely not. You can hold the L too, Skip Bayless. Go sit on the sidelines, brother. All right, Army football, back to you. Tarleton State, dog. Tarleton State. You lose your first game of the season to Tarleton State. Now, I know you guys got some roster movement, but Army football, you got to hold this L. You can't be as good as you were last year and then come into this year and losing to Circuit City University. Army, your punishment. Stand, attention, and recite America's Navy forged by sea. Because at least the Navy is handling business against FCS teams. Army football, hold this L. Kansas State, the Little Apple. I know they like, hey, but we won. But we show y'all love. I don't care. The Little Apple is starting to rot. Losing to Iowa State and nearly falling to North Dakota at home? That's not championship football, dog. That's crisis football. And then your social media teams decide to post about how clutch Avery Johnson is. Dog, hold this L. You're posting about how you're... Listen, I know North Dakota has, good football program, but they're an FCS team, dog. The resources aren't as plentiful as they are in Manhattan, Kansas. And the fact you're talking about how clutch your quarterback is against that, hold this L, bro. Hold this L for Avery Johnson and this Pops fighting. Family business supposed to stay in the house. That's the way it's supposed to work. Have me and my father traded jabs before? Absolutely. Are we going to do it for the world to see? Absolutely not. That will never happen, because I promise you right here, right now, I can be standing here. My pops can be dead wrong. I'll tell them later. But if somebody think they're going to swing on my pops, I'm swinging first. That's the way it goes. That's how family matters supposed to happen. You keep your beef inside the house. Me and my brother used to go at it. Brothers used to go at it every day. Let somebody think they're going to put their hand on my brother. You tripping. So Kansas State, hold this L. So this is what we got for you guys to do. This is your punishment, Kansas State. We're going to put y'all highlights on mute, right? And y'all going to play Lamb Chops. This is the song that doesn't end on repeat until you're worthy of competing with the elite of the Big 12. So y'all can start now. That's y'all punishment, Kansas State. Kansas State, hold this L, bro. That's not good. Oh, and you talking about everybody else, Governor. Well, me. It's time for me to hold this L too. Y'all got to wear this one. It was a buffet of bad takes. It is Crow Monday on a Tuesday because I couldn't go live yesterday for that. So, Governor, you got to hold this L for that. Tennessee not being top 25. Wrong. Hold this L, Governor. Baylor being for real against Auburn. Wrong. Hold this L, Governor. UCLA being bowl eligible. They look like dog water. Hold this L, Governor. Matt Patricia needing time to adjust. He turned Steve Sarkisian into Brian Ferentz overnight. Governor, hold this L. FAU keeping it close with Merlin. Dream on, Dreamer. Hold this L. And since you want to sit here and give people punishments, give yourself punishment. You've been promoted from the governor of college football to hold this L of college football. It is what it is. Paul Finebaum, brother. I can't get on people in the media. I can't get on myself, and I don't get on you. Your hyperbole was off the charts, brother. Texas is going to blow Ohio State out. Arch Manning is the best quarterback since Tim Tebow. Brother, did Johnny Manziel not exist? Brother, did Cam Newton not exist? Brother, did Joe Burrow not exist? Brother, I think the best quarterback since Tim Tebow, bro, he ain't the best quarterback in college football right now. Matter of fact, because of his limited snaps, I kept him off of my top 10 quarterback list. Now, he's going to figure it out. Let's be clear about that. He will 1,000% figure it out. So this is not an Arch Manning dig. He will be okay. Steve Sarkisian will be okay. But the thing that Steve Sarkisian said about Matt Patricia, and this is NFL experience, the shells he was able to run, he disguised everything. And Arch Manning was looking at ghost out there, 100%. But so was Steve Sarkisian. But Paul Finebaum, back to you. They going to blow Ohio State out. Yeah, right, buddy. They scored 7 points, bro. Hold this L, Paul Finebaum. Hold the L, bro. Arch Manning, best quarterback since Tim Tebow. Nah, you can hold the L for that too. Matter of fact, hold two. Now you Cool J. L, Cool J, Finebaum. That's his new name. Your punishment, Mr. Paul Finebaum, for disgracing yourself this past week. Hey, I gave myself a punishment too. Don't get mad at me. Jim from Tuscaloosa gets to host your show this week. Enjoy the ratings dip. Actually, it may go up because Jim from Tuscaloosa is hilarious. Paul Finebaum, hold this L to him. Matter of fact, Dave Aranda, Baylor, brother. Adjustments, none. Jackson Arnold still running wild through Waco. This just in. He's still running wild through Waco. Made no adjustments. You still running two high safeties, brother. Hold this L. Still running two of them. They not passing the ball, bro. They looking like a PG County team. We don't pass the ball in PG County. It's run every play. 4th and 15, we going for it. Win good right, quarterback keep. That's what we going to do. That's the way it works in PG County. And then you had this image of you looking like you crying or you confused on the sideline after they scored a touchdown. Bro, I'm going to quote a league of their own. There's no crying in baseball, dog, and it's the same for college football. Dave Aranda, Baylor Bears, hold this L. Governor, you hold another L. You Cool J right with Paul Finebaum too. And there's no excuses in the Big 12, dog. You sit here, you had an opportunity to make a name for yourself, and poor Sawyer Robinson, he was dealing. Poor Jake Spavital, because they were both dealing. They was able to put up some yards, and then who made the decision at the SEC? And I ain't making excuses for Baylor, but the SEC refs were going to be in control of that game. There were some pivotal plays that happened that people weren't talking about. The Keith, when Baylor had got momentum, and Pleasant scored on the touchdown. Baylor drove down, scored again. They stopped them on 3rd and 5. They called the defensive holding, right? And then, we saw Bryce and Washington go on a long run. It was called back. They ultimately scored on that drive, but they would have had more time, if you get what I'm saying. So who made that decision? I'm asking legitimately, who made that decision? Who said that was going to be okay? So Dave Aranda, hold this L. And your punishment, Dave Aranda, is a one-way trip to the hot seat. Figure it out, or Waco's getting rid of you, brother. Dave Aranda, hold this L. So that makes an end of this L segment. I told you I was going to be energetic. We was going to have some fun with it. Hopefully I can be better next week. Paul Finebaum can be better next week. Baylor can be better next week. K-State, hopefully they figure it out. Army can figure it out. And Alabama, I don't know what's going on with you all, but we all are this week's Hold This L, and some of us are even Cool J. Let's hold this L. Let's get right into our next segment, Governor Travels, and we'll figure out where I was at this week. And I got a cool game for you guys to play. Alrighty, so for our Governor Travels segment, my on the field experience this week, I got to go to the Aflac Kickoff Challenge, and truthfully, it was, I had a blast, bro. Being in the SEC environment was crazy. It really was. But I got instead of Weird Waldo, Weird Governor, I got a clip up here. Very briefly, I'm in it. You just gotta find me. I'm not sure if you guys will be able to, but I'm in this clip. See if you guys can find me. I'm standing on the field, and if you're paying attention, you'll see me, right? All right, so let's get into it. The sights and sounds, the things that matter to me, during my trip to Atlanta. So this week I touched down at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta for the Aflac Kickoff Challenge. South Carolina versus Virginia Tech, a.k.a. the Beamer Bowl. The atmosphere was electric the moment we put the tailgaters outside in full force. Gamecock roars echoing through the lot. Game! You guys already know what to say. I mean, even Moon was able to get them going with that a couple times too. So really electric atmosphere. You know, it's one of those things. Dina and I have talked about this before, kind of like the ninth wonders of college football, like a bucket list of things you want to do, you know, before. There I am. If you guys see me, I'm right there in the background right now. But I think that's delayed. I was just clapping if you guys saw me. But the atmosphere was so electric, and one of those bucket list things is seeing Sandstorm. And of course, I would love to see that in Columbia. But the fact I got to see Inner Sandman and Sandstorm to start this game, I couldn't hear myself think. It was super loud in there, and like it's overstimulating, bro. It's euphoric. Like that's the only way I can explain it or describe it. Being there on the field, it was crazy, bro. And the fact that it was Beamer Bowl, seeing Frank Beamer out there was good. You know, of course, seeing Shane was good. I had the opportunity to shake, you know, Frank Beamer's hand. He's such a cool dude, such a laid back dude, man. Like, yeah, Shane and his pa, Frank Beamer, both good people. But like I said, the atmosphere, if I can describe it to you guys, it was electric the moment we got there. And one of the first things I noticed, and I said this earlier, that the play, like, SEC teams are just, and I've been told this by an SEC player before, and he was like, you ever been to a SEC game? SEC media days before? Like, he's like, no, I haven't. I will be going to the one next year, but I haven't been to one yet. And he was like, you'll see the difference in how big the players are in the SEC versus like Big 12, ACC. Like the only team who looked, you know, kind of the part, you know, of an SEC team at Big 12 media days was Baylor, you know. But yeah, you saw a difference automatically. Like South Carolina's offensive line towered over Virginia Tech's defensive line. And the interesting thing was I think, you know, they was able to sack LaNorris sellers a few times. But like I said, the atmosphere was electric. The security was so lax. It was the most laxed security environment that I've ever been in at a game. Because you can go to games, and typically the smaller games be the ones that be tripping. And it'll give me a bad vibe, and that's when I leave at halftime. I'm like, y'all bugging B. I'm about to go. Like I did that. I think I went to a Richmond Spider game. We be trying to show love to all levels of football, but they was in there like acting like they couldn't find the credentials, this, that, and the third. And it happened to be a day I had receipts. I had a Conference USA I had on. Moon does a great job at this too. He'll wear his credentials. I had a host of credentials with me in my bag. I'm like, we've been to way bigger games, bro. Go get our credentials. Like, what are you doing? But yeah, so this atmosphere was just electric. I mean, this is way after the game is over. People are in there still celebrating the team. It was dope seeing Shane Beamer kid. Like, cause you know I wouldn't know him. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know him. Let's say that, but without the, you know, SEC football any given Saturday joint. So I remember seeing him and how stressed out he is, you know, before and after the games, because he just wants South Carolina to win so people could be nice to his dad. So seeing him just walking, Mr. Phil, and when I say the who's who of college football was there, the who's who was college football there. So, and like seeing Jim Phillips is the commissioner that I know best. I've had a brief opportunity to talk to Brett Yormark at Big 12 Media Days. It was like a handshake and some pleasantries. He didn't know who I was, but Jim Phillips is one of the commissioners who do know who I am, and every time he see me, it's always the same conversation. You know, dap him up, and then, you know, he always say, hey, thank you for your coverage. You always at all of the events, and, you know, and we talked this time for a while, though. It's like a 5-minute conversation, and we was just talking about, like, religion and all sorts of stuff, like, not college football, but, you know, I think when you start to meet people and people get used to seeing you in the atmosphere, you know, that's when, you know, your conversations go from base, like, pleasantries conversations to real conversations, and we had a real conversation. So shout out to Commissioner Phillips. Dude is a real dude, bro. That's what I gotta say. He's a stand-up dude, and he's always been that way. So it's always good to see him. Also got to meet SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey for the first time. It was a cool moment. And it's just one of those things like, you're here. Like, you know, when you're doing something like this, especially earlier on, it doesn't happen anymore now. But you like, like you want to make it. You can see the future. Like, you know, we manifest getting credentials and stuff years ago before we even knew how to do it. But like, you know, once you really start to like move the needle and start to become, you know, part of something, and you feel like you're building something. Like I said, it's those type of moments like, yo, I'm here, same field, sitting with all of these people who I've admired for years. So it was cool seeing Greg Sankey. And, you know, he was outside, bro. Like most of the times you see, you know, when I see commissioners like Jim Phillips, he be outside, he gonna come, he gonna say what's up to everybody, gonna be respectful, and then he gonna keep it P. Brett Yormark at Big 12 Media Days, he was outside the entire time. He was like the mayor, bro, talking to everybody, you know, preaching to everybody for their coverage. But like Greg Sankey was outside, bro. When I say outside, when I say somebody's outside, that means they there, no security, they just chilling, bro. And that's exactly what he was doing. And he's super approachable, because you think about Greg Sankey, you think about him, you know, pounding the table about how great the SEC is. And dude is a solid dude, man. He really is. So that was cool. I also ran into Andy Staples after the game. I think I told you guys, he and I had a conversation about a little bit of everything. I talked to him 2 different occasions at Big 12 Media Days. The second time we was talking about sneakers and stuff like that. So he seen me, and he saw the sneakers I had on, and then, you know, we chopped it up real quick. And, you know, and it's always good seeing people and people that you respect, and seeing, you know, the respect is beginning to, you know, be mutual. And the last couple times I had seen Andy, I didn't see Ari, so, you know, I had an opportunity to meet Ari, told both of them I'm a fan of their show. So it was just dope, man. It was super dope. The event was dope. The game was outstanding. Virginia Tech had a myriad of chances to make plays and seal the deal. For some, you know, way, shape, or form, they just couldn't. Like, I don't know how I feel. Like, Kyron Jones is one of the guys I was super high on coming into the 2024 season. After flashes he showed in 2023 where, you know, him and Grant Wells were battling for the starting quarterback position. Grant Wells had it at first, and then Kyron Jones took it over. And I don't know if it's a fit. You know, they were able to make plays. I will say, you know, Philip Montgomery probably or Brent Pryor probably could have been a little bit more aggressive in that game, because their wide receivers were making plays. I mean, the punt return really sealed the deal, in my opinion. And a couple other things. Nyck Harbor, bro. That dude looked like he was made in a lab, man. He really looked like he was made in a lab. But yeah, really had 2 touchdowns that game. They called one of them back. But yeah, you know, that skinny post he ran on the touchdown was more like a 9, but it was called the post. And smoked the DB, scored a long touchdown. He's legit. He's starting to look the part. At first, I'm like, he's a little choppy. You know what I'm saying? Not during this game, but, you know, when I saw him last year, like, a little choppy, needs some footwork. But you could tell this offseason he really dedicated, because he wasn't doing the track, so he really dedicated to football. And you see the results, man. And this dude, like, gets busy. There's just things you don't always see on TV. I didn't know he was a gunner. He made a couple tackles as a gunner. That shows me a guy who really wants to make it to the next level. You know what I'm saying? Because there's people like Matthew Slater, I think his name was, used to play for the Patriots, who made a career out of doing that. So to see him doing that, see him returning kickoffs, even though he didn't get an opportunity to return any kickoffs this game, but you see the difference, and good. Also, Jay Crowder was there, which is crazy. So seeing him, he was cool. You know, dapped him up, said what's up to him. So it was just a lot of people, you know what I'm saying, who was at the game. But yeah, like I said, Nyck Harbor looked like he was made in a lab. LaNorris Sellers is real deal. And, you know, we always talk about Heisman-worthy plays. He had a Heisman-worthy play this past weekend. You know, Virginia Tech did have an, you know, opportunity to stop them and, you know, potentially get back into the game. He just would not go down for the scramble that he had. And like I said, South Carolina is legit. I wonder the adjustments they're going to make on the offensive line, because I tell you, Virginia Tech was getting after the LaNorris Sellers. And what are adjustments that, you know, Brent Pryor and company going to make? Because this year, I don't think mediocrity is going to cut it. They need 7 or 8 wins. So, and probably more 8 than 7, to be honest with you. So, but like I said, like I told you guys in the opening, seeing, you know, Inner Sandman, you know, and Sandstorm at the same daggone time in the same daggone game. When I tell you get chills, you get chills. So it was an amazing moment. It was so many times, like, me and Moon kind of just looking, like, pinching ourselves, like, yo, how did we end up here? So it was a super dope atmosphere. Like I said, security was super relaxed. Game by Aflac. Shout out to Mr. Slocum. That dude he's a genuine dude. He kept his word. The moment, him and Moon had a fantastic interview during ACC Media Days. He kept his word. You need anything, let us know. He got his credential for that. So I do expect to get credential for the Peach Bowl as well. And that'll probably be our first college football playoff game that we've ever been to. So great game. Shout out to everybody. And if you found me, let me know in the comment section that you found me. Or you can even DM me like, yo, I saw you in the video. You was there. But it's cool. Like, I'm in the background. Like I said, it was like a Where's Waldo moment. So now we're going to get into our week 1 recap. I'm going to talk about 5 games. Like I said, George Michael, the Sports Machine style, if you old enough to remember that show, or Sports Center when Stuart Scott and Rich Eisen was there, or NFL Primetime with Boomer and Tom Jackson. I missed that style of programming, so we're going to get right into it. Here it goes. Go Texas. Friday night lights deep in Big 12 country, and Auburn walked into a true road opener for the first time since 2002. Baylor struck first. Connor Hawkins drilled a 36-yard field goal, 3-0 Bears. But Jackson Arnold, the Oklahoma transfer, wasn't phased. Playing just 120 miles where he starred at Denton Guyer High School. Arnold darted through the defense, didn't he? Started from the bottom now, yeah. In the end zone, Auburn on top 7-3. Second quarter, the Tigers flexed their ground game. Damari Alston muscled in from 9 yards out, then a short field goal stretched the lead to 17-3, and we had trouble in Waco. But Baylor punched back late in the half. Sawyer Robinson on 4th down threw a 33-yard strike to Kobe Prentice at the break. Auburn 17, Baylor 10. Third quarter, Auburn turned back to the run game. Jeremiah Cobb finished a 71-yard drive with a 2-yard score to make it 24-10. Baylor closed the gap on a Robinson strike to freshman Caden Knighton, 24-17. And right when we felt like Waco was starting to wake up, the energy in the building was electric. Auburn quieted that momentum, and the special teams had to answer. Rayshawn Pleasant, the Tulane transfer, fielded a kick and flew 98 yards, gone. Auburn 31, Baylor 17. Baylor had one late push. Robertson hitting Michael Trigg for a short touchdown to cut it to 31-17. And then a hero comes along, and that hero was Jackson Arnold. 4th and 1, under 5 minutes left. Hugh Freeze decided to go for it. They called a jet motion. He faked it, kept it. 27 yards later, untouched, dagger. Auburn 38, Baylor 24. Arnold finished with 137 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, and a Texas homecoming that felt like destiny. Auburn roars to 1-0. And speaking of roars, Columbus was shaking as Ohio State and Texas collided in a heavyweight bout. Columbus, Ohio, the Horseshoe, number 3 Ohio State, defending champs versus number 1 Texas, led by Arch Manning, walking into enemy territory for a heavyweight clash. First quarter, chess match, both defenses setting the tone, but midway through the second quarter, the Buckeyes struck first, a bruising 13-play, 87-yard drive that chewed the clock up 8 minutes. C.J. Donaldson punched it in for 1 yard out. Buckeyes 7-0. Arch Manning tried to answer, but Ryan Day's defense, now under new defensive coordinator Matt Patricia, swarmed. Texas went 0 for 2 in the red zone, including Manning stuffed on a 4th and goal sneak at the 1 yard line by Caden Curry and Lorenzo Styles Jr. Momentum stayed scarlet and gray. Fourth quarter, Julian Sand stepped into his moment. Redshirt freshman quarterback making his first collegiate start. Stood tall in the pocket. He let it fly down the sideline. 40 yards to Carnell Tate. Touchdown Ohio State. 14-0. The Horseshoe shook like an earthquake, but the Longhorns weren't done. With over 3 minutes left, Manning rolled right and found Parker Livingstone behind the defense, a 32-yard strike, and suddenly it was 14-7. The Texas defense forced a punt, giving Arch one more chance. Down the field they came, but a 4th down, Caleb Downs closed the door, stopping Jack Entries 1 yard short at the Ohio State 47-yard line. Bowl game. Saying finished 13-20 for 126 yards, and that one dagger touchdown. Donaldson bruised his way to 67 yards on the ground, and that Buckeye defense smothering Manning for 3 quarters, holding Texas to 1 of 5 of 4th down. The champs held serve. Texas 11-game roll winning streak snapped, and Horseshoe once again proved it's where top-ranked dreams go to die. Ohio State 14, Texas 7. The Buckeyes march on, staking their claim as the nation's true number 1. And from Columbus to Atlanta, Tennessee versus Syracuse lit it up for the Aflac kickoff. ATL Georgia, what we do for ya. Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the Aflac kickoff challenge, a neutral site, but the Vols turned it into Rocky Top South. Tennessee wasted no time. Max Gilbert, 34-yard field goal, put them on the board. Then Joey Aguilar, making his Vols debut, handed it off to Peyton Lewis, who powered in from 2 yards out, just like that, 10-0. And then when Syracuse coughed it up late in the first, Colton Hood scooped and scored 22 yards, touchdown. 17-0 Tennessee in a blink, and just what we thought, that Tennessee was in some trouble this year with how they handled the Nico Ian Amalava situation. They said, Governor, be quiet. The Orange finally found some life in the second. Yassine Wells muscled through, scored 2 yards to cut it to 17-7, but Aguilar had to answer. On the very next drive, he uncorked a deep ball to Brandon Staley, 73 yards to the house, 24-7 Vols. Syracuse Steve Angeli tried to counter, finding Jonte Cook the second for a short score, trimming it to 24-14, but Tennessee's run game just wasn't slow. Deshaun Bishop punched it in just before halftime. Vols lead 31-14 at break. The third quarter, Aguilar kept firing. He connected with Star Thomas on a 7-yard strike, stretching the lead to 38-14. Willis tried to keep Syracuse alive in the second and third touchdowns of the day, bringing it to 38-26, but Tennessee had to close her. Aguilar marched them down again in the fourth, hitting Miles Kitzelman for 2 yards out to ice it. Ball game, Tennessee 45, Syracuse 26. Aguilar debut, strong, 247 yards, 3 touchdowns. Saley had this 73-yard bomb while Thomas added 92 yards rushing. The Vols rolled up 493 yards of total offense, both balanced and explosive. Syracuse got Hart Willis, 93 yards, 3 scores, but Angeli was under siege, sacked 5 times, picked once. The Vols opened up 20-25 with fireworks. Tennessee 45, Syracuse 26. Rocky Top back in rhythm. And speaking of rhythm, Tallahassee was thundering as Florida State and Alabama clashed in the showdown, dripping with history. Tallahassee, Doak Campbell Stadium, the kind of humid night where the air hangs heavy, the kind of stage where history waits to be written. Alabama ranked 8th, had won 23 straight season openers. Florida State coming off a 2-10 disaster, entered in as a 2-touchdown dog. Nobody outside of Tallahassee thought they had a shot. Inside the stadium was a different story. The Tide came out looking like the Tide. Ty Simpson marched them 17 plays, 75 yards, chewing up nearly 9 minutes of clock. A surgical drive capped with a short toss to Charles Cuevas. Alabama 7-0. Business as usual, or so it seemed. Then came the punchback. Tommy Castellanos, the Boston College transfer, who said this team ain't even the same without Nick Saban. Scramble left, cut inside, and dove across the goal line, 9-yard touchdown, and the nose tied it at 7. The stadium came alive, and then the run game tilted the field. Midway through the second quarter, Makai Dancy found a crease, burst through the second level, and raced 32 yards untouched to the house. Doak Campbell exploded. A Jake Weinberg field goal stretched it to 17-7 at the break. Florida State had the lead, and they had belief, and everybody across the world, especially in Tuscaloosa, is trying to figure out what in the hell is going on. Third quarter, Alabama press. Simpson kept firing, but Florida State defense was suffocating on third down. Bama finished just 16-17. Their ground game bottled to 87 yards on 29 carries. Every yard was a fight. And in the fourth, the Seminoles landed the knockout. Gavin Sawchuk took the handoff, bounced outside, and streaked 14 yards to the end zone, 31-17. Fans could feel it. The streak, the aura, the Tide itself, it was slipping away. Simpson threw for 254 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jeremy Bernard grabbed 8 for $146. Alabama never found rhythm after the first drive. Florida State ran for 230 yards, controlled the clock. They played bully ball under new offensive coordinator Gus Malzahn. When the final whistle blew, history broke loose. A sea of garnet and gold poured into the field. Students, alumni, the whole city of Tallahassee, and unranked Florida State, fresh off rock bottom, had just stormed the college football world. It was all a dream. Florida State 31, Alabama 17, a seismic upset that shook the playoff picture before September even begun. The Tide rolled home in silence, and in Death Valley East, the Tigers clashed with LSU to meet Clemson. Clemson, South Carolina. They call it Death Valley East, but on this night, the other Death Valley came to town. Number 4, Clemson. Number 9, LSU. The battle of Death Valley. The battle of the Tigers. The battle of pride. The battle of 2 programs searching for national validation. Early on, it was all orange. Clemson struck first with a Nolan Hauser field goal. Then Adam Randall, the former wide receiver turned running back, powered through on a 4th and goal plunge, adding 2 forced fumbles by Clemson defense, and the home Tigers carried a 10-3 lead in the halftime. Death Valley East was rocking, and LSU looked shaky, but they call it halftime to halftime a reason, because at halftime you need to make halftime adjustments. But Brian Kelly's team came out the locker room, they looking a little different. LSU defense tightened the screws, suffocating Clemson's run game, holding them to just 31 yards all night. Why didn't Gideon Davison get any carries, Governor? Why didn't Gideon Davison get any carries, huh? Cade Klubnik was forced into 38 throws, pressured constantly, and LSU secondary made him work for every inch. On the other side, Gerard Nussmeier grew stronger as the night wore on. After a quiet first half, he carved up Clemson for 134 yards in the second, calm in the pocket, patient in his reads, cold world, no blanket. His touch passes stretched the defense, and his poise steadied LSU. Kalen DeBoer broke through first, finishing a long drive with a bruising 2-yard run. Tie ball game 10-10 all. The Purple Tigers had momentum. Then came the dagger. Midway through the fourth, Nussmeier dropped back, scanned the field, found Trey Green in the corner of the end zone. 8-yard touchdown, LSU 17, Clemson 10, and LSU had its first lead of the night. But the battle of Death Valley wasn't done. With under 2 minutes left, Klubnik led Clemson deep into LSU territory. Fourth down at the 15, crowd on his feet, season opener on the line. LSU brought heat, and they had a spy. And guess who that spy was? None other than Harold Perkins. Clemson throw fluttered to the turf, and Death Valley East went silent. LSU 17, Clemson 10. The Bayou Bengals had walked into Clemson house and stolen their night. It was their first season opening victory under the Brian Kelly regime. And that's crazy. A reminder that not all Tigers were the same, and on this night it was LSU's growl that echoed the loudest. And with that, the opening weekend of college football belongs to the chaos, the storylines, and the drama we've been all waiting for. Great weekend one. This was your weekend recap. Told you guys you were all in for a real treat. I thoroughly enjoyed doing that, so that'll be something that we do every weekend. We'll recap, the week, and we'll do it in that style. If you guys like that, let me know, and I can actually do a show dedicated to it. I think I have some time. It depends where we're at. If I have time to do it on Sunday, because those, setting up each game and lining up the video does take time. But I can do a separate show based on that, like 10 games every week. Now, that'll end up being like an hour show. No, that's fine. End up probably being like a 30-minute show. But, not bad at all. Shout out to everybody who was in here watching this. I truly do appreciate the support. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I need to lower my bit rate and also need to get a better computer. But, after the heartbreak of having a, $2,000 computer break-in, I just went and got a basic one. But I do need to have a different one. I probably need to have one for, streaming alone, and then the other one, and then connecting the two, and then, one just for, the input and everything I have in here. So shout out to you, man. College football is back. Truly appreciate everyone. I truly appreciate the fans who, now I know we got people who like both NFL and college football equally, or like college football a little bit more. But for the people who are only watching college football for this week, NFL I think is back this upcoming. Is it this upcoming week? I think the NFL back. If so, thank you. Yeah, because I'm tired of seeing people who are normally NFL tweeters tweeting about this game. It's extremely frustrating. It really is. Some people just leave it alone, and also leave Kirk Herbstreit alone. I saw somebody, talking about his antics, talking about he acts like, college football world exists around him, something like that along those lines. I'm like, bro is in the booth every weekend. Bro does do college game day. I don't know. People are tripping. He was having fun. The game was they got dog walk. UNC got dog walk. Oh, Bill Belichick. Oh, by the way, you can hold this L as well for that performance, making us, all the summer, we're trying to buy North Carolina stock, and I predicted TCU would win that game. But not in that facet. That was crazy. But as I always like to say, there are no more victories in a sport that survive in advance. That's why college football has the greatest regular season. And until next time, you all take care. I'm back, same bat time, same channel. 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. That's the time slot. You all take care. Governor of college football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's CJ
Great defensive
on
minds. They